The fluorescent lights of Seoul General Hospital flickered above me as I clutched the discharge papers in my trembling hand. 3 tiny bodies were strapped to my chest in an oversized baby carrier that Park Refrigerator had bought for me last week. Bless his strange, loyal heart. Anol, Bayal, and Haru. My entire world, wrapped in soft blue, pink, and yellow blankets respectively. Just keep walking, I muttered to myself, adjusting the carrier as little Haru began to fuss. 10 more steps to the exit. 9. 8. My legs felt like jelly. Giving birth to triplets naturally because my omega body could handle it, according to the doctors, had left me weak, exhausted, and frankly terrified of what came next. Single parent. 3 mouths to feed. My savings account crying in the corner. Dandelion ah. Park Refrigerator's voice cut through my anxiety as he rushed toward me with a wheelchair. I told you to wait. You just gave birth 3 days ago. I'm fine, Refrigerator. I just want to go home. I tried to smile, but my face felt frozen. Everything felt surreal, like I was moving through a dream. Or a nightmare. That's when I saw him. One meteorite. My ex-boss. My former lover. The man who'd shattered my heart into a million pieces 5 years ago. The father of the 3 babies currently attached to my chest. He stood near the hospital's main entrance, tall and imposing in his charcoal suit that probably cost more than my yearly rent. His silver-gray eyes, the ones that haunted my dreams, were focused on his phone, his expression carved from ice as usual. That perpetual coldness that made everyone in the office whisper that he had no heart. I knew better. I'd seen him warm once. For exactly 1 night. Oh God. Oh no. No, no, no. My feet stopped moving. Every muscle in my body locked up. Park Refrigerator followed my gaze and his face went pale. Is that? We need to go. No. Back entrance. Emergency exit. Anywhere but here. But I was too slow. Too obvious. 3 babies strapped to an omega's chest in the middle of a hospital lobby tends to draw attention. Meteorite looked up from his phone. Our eyes met. 5 years collapsed into a single second. I watched his expression shift from cold indifference to confusion, then to something I couldn't quite read. His nostrils flared slightly, an alpha tick I remembered too well. He was scenting the air. No, he couldn't possibly. Beck Dandelion. His voice carried across the lobby, deep and commanding. People turned to stare. He started walking toward me, each step measured and deliberate, like a predator approaching prey. Run, Park Refrigerator hissed, grabbing my arm. I'll block him. Just run. But my legs wouldn't move. The babies sensed my distress. Hanol started crying, which set off Bayal, and then Haru joined the chorus. The sound of all 3 wailing filled the lobby. Meteorite was 10 feet away. Then 5. Then he was standing right in front of me, towering over my exhausted frame. Up close I could see he looked different. Older. Tired. There were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before, and thin lines around his mouth that spoke of stress and sleepless nights. Those babies. His voice was barely above a whisper now, but it hit me like a physical blow. His eyes dropped to the carrier, scanning each tiny face with an intensity that made my heart race. When were you going to tell me? I couldn't breathe. How did you? Their scent. His jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle jump. I can smell myself in them. Mixed with yours. How is that possible unless... He looked back up at me, and for the first time in 5 years, I saw raw emotion crack through that icy exterior. Anger. Hurt. How long have you been hiding my children from me? Your children? I found my voice, and with it came 5 years of buried pain and rage. You fired me. The morning after that night, you looked at me like I was garbage and told me to clean out my desk. You said I was unprofessional and a liability to the company. Dandelion. Don't. I stepped back, instinctively protecting the babies. You don't get to say my name like that. You don't get to act like the victim here. I'm not acting like anything. I'm stating facts. His alpha voice came out, commanding and sharp. Those are my children. I can smell my own blood. And you kept them from me. You kept yourself from them. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. You made your choice 5 years ago when you threw me away like I meant nothing. Park Refrigerator positioned himself between us. Back off, Meteorite. She doesn't owe you anything. You made your bed. Stay out of this, Beta. Meteorite's eyes flashed dangerously. Stop it. Both of you. I felt dizzy. The hospital lobby was spinning. When was the last time I'd eaten? I need to leave. I need to take my babies home. Our babies, Meteorite corrected, his voice softening slightly. Dandelion, please. We need to talk about. Well, isn't this touching? A new voice made all 3 of us freeze. I turned to see young Chandelier emerging from the hospital elevator, his expression one of calculated amusement. He was another alpha, nearly as powerful as Meteorite, and the director of the company's international division. I'd seen him at corporate events before I was fired, always watching Meteorite with barely concealed ambition. What was he doing here? Chandelier. Meteorite's entire demeanor changed, becoming even more glacial. This doesn't concern you. Oh, but it does. Chandelier smiled, pulling out his phone. You see, I was visiting my aunt on the maternity ward when I happened to overhear the most interesting conversation between nurses. About an Omega who just delivered triplets. About how those babies had the strongest alpha scent the nurses had ever encountered. Naturally, I was curious. He looked at me, then at the babies, then back at Meteorite. The shareholders are going to love this, he purred. The cold, calculating Guan Meteorite, brought down by a secret family. How, a human of you. My blood ran cold. Park Refrigerator's grip on my arm tightened. Meteorite looked like he wanted to commit murder. And my 3 babies, completely oblivious to the storm brewing around them, continued to cry in their carrier, hungry, tired, and utterly innocent. What had I walked into? 3 days. That's how long it took for Guan Meteorite to track me down to my cramped 2-bedroom apartment in Mapogu. 3 days of me jumping at every sound, checking the locks obsessively, and barely sleeping between the triplets' feeding schedules. I should have known I couldn't hide from a man with unlimited resources and an alpha's determination. The knock came at 9 p.m., sharp and authoritative. I froze with Hanul in my arms, her tiny mouth still latched to the bottle. Through the peephole, I saw him. That perfectly tailored suit, that cold expression, that commanding presence that seemed too large for my narrow hallway. I know you're in there, Dandelion. I can hear the babies. His voice was muffled but firm through the door. Open up. We need to talk. Go away. I called back, my voice embarrassingly shaky. You have no right to be here. I have every right. Those are my children. Says who? You want a paternity test? Fine. But until then, leave us alone. Silence. For a moment I thought he'd actually left. Then I heard the sound of papers sliding under my door. My stomach dropped as I watched a thick manila envelope appear on my worn doormat. Read it, he said from the other side. Then let me in. With trembling hands, I put Hanul in her crib next to her sleeping siblings and retrieved the envelope. Inside was a legal document, dense with text and official stamps. My eyes scanned the pages, and with each paragraph my blood pressure rose. Cohabitation and CO parenting agreement. The words blurred together. 6 months mandatory living arrangement. His penthouse. Public appearances as a united couple. Shared custody schedule. Financial support in exchange for. Sign this or I take full custody. I yanked the door open so fast it banged against the wall. Meteorite stood there, unmoved, his gray eyes meeting mine without flinching. You're insane, I breathed. You can't just, this is blackmail. This is reality. He stepped inside without invitation, his presence immediately making my small apartment feel even smaller. His eyes swept over the space, the second-hand furniture, the drying baby clothes hanging everywhere, the clutter of new parenthood. You're living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 infants. There's mold on your ceiling. Your building doesn't have proper security. How long do you think you can manage this alone? I'm doing just fine, thank you very much. Are you? He moved closer, and I hated how my Omega instincts responded to his alpha presence. My pulse quickening, my body remembering things I wanted to forget. When's the last time you slept more than 2 hours? Ate a proper meal? You look exhausted, Dandelion. Don't pretend you care about me. I clutched the contract like a shield. This isn't about me at all, is it? This is about control. About your pride. About? This is about my children. His voice dropped dangerously low. About ensuring they have everything they need. Everything I can provide. What you're providing is a prison sentence. I threw the contract onto my tiny dining table. The sound made Bayal stir in her crib, and I immediately lowered my voice. You want me to live with you? Pretend we're a happy family? Play dress up for your business associates? I want what's mine, Dandelion. His jaw clenched, that familiar tick appearing. And apparently that includes 3 children I knew nothing about. Before I could respond, my apartment door burst open again. Park Refrigerator practically fell inside, panting like he'd run up all 6 flights of stairs. Which, knowing the elevator was broken again, he probably had. Don't sign anything, he gasped, bracing himself against the doorframe. Dandelion, don't you dare sign that contract. Refrigerator? How did you? I've been tracking him. He pointed an accusing finger at Meteorite. I knew he'd try something like this, and I found out why he's really doing it. Meteorite's expression darkened. Get out. His company's shareholders are threatening a vote of no confidence. Refrigerator ignored him completely, stumbling over to me. They say he's too unstable and unmarried to lead the company. There's been talk for months. But if he suddenly has a family, a respectable Omega partner, adorable triplets, that's enough. Meteorite's alpha voice came out, making both Refrigerator and I instinctively tense. But my friend had always been braver than his beta status suggested. It's all political, Dandelion. He needs you to save his reputation. I looked at Meteorite, searching his face for denial. Instead, I saw something flicker in those cold gray eyes. Something that looked almost like vulnerability? That's not, he started, then stopped. His hand ran through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up for the first time since I'd known him. It's more complicated than... Crash. The sound of shattering glass made all three of us jump. I screamed as a brick came flying through my living room window, spraying shards everywhere. Instinctively, I threw myself over the cribs, covering the babies with my body. The triplets erupted into terrified wails. Meteorite moved like lightning, positioning himself between us and the broken window, his body a shield. Park Refrigerator was already rushing over to help me check the babies for injuries. They're okay, I sobbed, running my hands over each tiny body. No cuts. No blood. Just fear and crying. Oh God, they're okay. Meteorite reached down carefully and picked up the brick. Tied to it with wire was a note. His face went absolutely murderous as he read it. What does it say? I demanded, my voice shaking. Meteorite, what does it? He handed it to me silently. The message was written in red marker, the letters harsh and aggressive. Keep the bastards. Meteorite belongs to me. See. Chandelier. Young Chandelier was watching us. Knew where I lived. Had just thrown a brick through my window while my baby slept mere feet away. My entire body went cold. This wasn't just corporate politics. This was dangerous. Meteorite's phone was already out, barking orders to what sounded like security personnel. Park Refrigerator was examining the window, muttering about calling the police. And I just stood there, 3 screaming babies in my arms, staring at that threatening note. We're leaving. Now. Meteorite's voice cut through the chaos. He wasn't asking. Pack whatever you and the babies need. I'm taking you to my penthouse tonight. I don't. Look at your window, Dandelion. His eyes met mine, and for the first time I saw genuine fear in them. Look at that note. This isn't about the contract anymore. This is about keeping you and our children safe. So I'm asking you, please. Let me protect you. I looked at the broken window. At the brick. At the note signed with a single, threatening letter. At my 3 innocent babies who could have been hurt. At my tiny apartment that suddenly felt like a trap instead of a home. Then I looked at Meteorite's outstretched hand, holding a pen. What choice did I have? My hand shook as I reached for it. 6 months, I whispered. Just 6 months. 6 months, he agreed. I signed my name on the contract and watched my entire life change with a single stroke of ink. Park Refrigerator squeezed my shoulder. I'm coming with you. No. Meteorite's voice was firm but not unkind. But you can visit. Anytime. As Meteorite helped me pack bags while simultaneously arranging for movers and security details, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just made either the best decision of my life or the worst. Only time would tell. Living with Gwen Meteorite was like existing in a beautiful, suffocating snow globe. Everything was pristine, temperature-controlled, and utterly devoid of warmth. His penthouse occupied the entire top floor of the Hanamdong luxury tower, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River, marble floors so polished I could see my reflection, furniture that looked like it belonged in an art museum rather than a home. The guest wing where the babies and I stayed had been hastily converted into a nursery, but even with the new cribs and changing tables, it felt sterile, clinical. Nothing like a home for 3 babies who needed softness and warmth. 2 weeks had passed since that terrifying night. 2 weeks of awkward silences, careful distance, and a routine that felt more like a business arrangement than a family. Meteorite left for work at 6 a.m. sharp. Returned at 8 p.m. Knocked on the nursery door like he needed permission to see his own children. But tonight was different. It was 3 a.m., and all 3 babies had decided to wage war against sleep simultaneously. Hanul was screaming, Bayal was fussy, and Haru had a mild fever that had me terrified despite the pediatrician assuring me it was normal. I was at my breaking point, bouncing Haru while trying to prepare bottles with one hand, when Meteorite appeared in the nursery doorway. He wore silk pajama pants and nothing else, his hair mussed from sleep, looking more human than I'd ever seen him. I heard crying, he said unnecessarily. The entire building could probably hear crying. It's fine. Go back to bed. I tried to keep the exhaustion from my voice and failed miserably. Instead of leaving, he walked over and carefully lifted Hanul from her crib. The baby's cries immediately softened to whimpers. I watched, stunned, as this cold CO swayed gently, one large hand supporting her tiny head with surprising confidence. You've been practicing, I observed. YouTube videos. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Turns out there are tutorials for everything, including how not to hold a baby like a football. Despite everything, I almost laughed. Almost. We worked in silence for the next hour, feeding, changing, soothing. It was oddly domestic, this synchronized dance of new parenthood. When all three babies finally, miraculously, fell asleep, we both collapsed on the oversized sectional in the nursery sitting area. The silence felt heavy. Meaningful. Why did you really fire me that morning? The question escaped before I could stop it. I'd been holding it in for 5 years, and suddenly at 4 a.m. in his penthouse with our children sleeping nearby, I needed to know. Meteorite sat across from me, staring at his hands. For a long moment I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. He poured himself a scotch from the bar cart, because of course there was a bar cart in the nursery sitting room. Because I was terrified, he finally said, his back still to me. Of what? He took a long drink before turning to face me. In the dim light filtering through the windows, his expression was unguarded in a way I'd never seen. Vulnerable. Almost broken. Of wanting you to stay forever. My breath caught in my throat. What? That night, his voice was rough, like the words physically hurt. That wasn't just my rut and your heat sinking. Or at least not for me. I'd been fighting my feelings for you for months, Dandelion. Every time you brought me coffee exactly how I liked it. Every time you anticipated my needs before I voiced them. Every time you smiled at me like I was more than just the cold bastard everyone whispered about. Meteorite. When we woke up together that morning and you looked at me with those hopeful eyes, I panicked. Because I realized I wanted mornings like that forever. And forever terrified me. He set down his glass with a sharp click. So I did what I do best. I destroyed it before it could destroy me. I fired you. Pushed you away. Convinced myself it was for the best. Tears burned my eyes. You broke my heart. I know. His voice cracked. And I've regretted it every single day for 5 years. Before I could process his confession, my phone buzzed violently on the side table. We both jumped. I grabbed it, my heart sinking when I saw Park Refrigerator's name with multiple exclamation points. Emergency. Chandelier leaked photos to the press. He's claiming you forced Meteorite into this arrangement. Calling you a gold digger who trapped him with fake babies. Press conference tomorrow at 10 a.m. He's trying to destroy both of you. The blood drained from my face. I read the message twice, then handed my phone to Meteorite with shaking hands. His expression transformed from vulnerable to murderous in seconds. He's done. He pulled out his own phone, fingers flying across the screen. I'm calling my lawyer. My PR team. We'll issue a statement. Get ahead of this. Wait. I grabbed his arm without thinking. The contact sent an electric current through both of us. I felt him tense, saw his pupils dilate slightly. What if we tell the truth? The real story? He stared at me like I'd suggested we jump off the balcony. The truth? That I struggled to find the words. That we have history. That the babies are yours. That we're figuring things out. Not the version Chandelier is spinning, but our version. You mean admit that I was a coward who pushed away the only Omega I ever loved because I didn't think I deserved happiness? His voice was bitter, self-loathing. That I fired you because seeing you every day was torture, knowing I'd ruined everything in one night? That I've spent 5 years trying to convince myself I made the right choice when every instinct screamed that I'd made the worst mistake of my life. The words hung in the air between us, raw and exposed. My heart hammered against my ribs. You loved me? Love. He corrected, his gray eyes burning into mine. Present tense. I love. Beep, beep, beep. The penthouse door's security system chimed. Someone was using an override code. We both froze. Meteorite moved instantly, positioning himself between me and the entrance to the nursery. The sound of expensive shoes on marble echoed through the penthouse. Then young Chandelier's voice, smooth and poisonous, sorry to interrupt this touching moment. He appeared in the nursery doorway, immaculate in a three-piece suit despite the ungodly hour. His smile was predatory, triumphant. Behind him I could see 2 large men, security or bodyguards. How did you get in here? Meteorite's voice was deadly quiet. I'm on the building's board of directors, remember? Emergency override access. Chandelier's eyes slid to me and I felt dirty under his gaze. Perks of being invested in prime real estate. Get out. Now. In a moment. Chandelier checked his watch casually. You see, the board meeting is in 5 hours. And I have enough votes to remove you as CEO. The presentation is already prepared. Evidence of your unstable personal life, the scandal with your secretary, abandoning your own children, and now this desperate attempt to save face by forcing an Omega into a fake relationship. He took a step closer and I instinctively backed toward the cribs where my babies slept. Unless, Chandelier continued, his smile widening, you'd like to negotiate? Perhaps we can come to an arrangement. You step down voluntarily, recommend me as your successor, and I'll make sure the story that reaches the press is much kinder. I might even help rehabilitate your reputation. Eventually. Never, Meteorite growled. Pity. Chandelier's eyes locked onto me. I suppose I could be persuaded to change my presentation. Certain incentives were offered. Your Omega is quite beautiful, Meteorite, and Omegas with triplets are so rare, so valuable. I'm sure we could work out a deal where everyone benefits. He didn't get to finish. Meteorite moved so fast I barely saw it, slamming Chandelier against the nursery wall hard enough to rattle picture frames. Touch him, Meteorite snarled, his alpha voice so powerful it made the windows vibrate, and I'll destroy you. In the cribs behind me the baby started crying again. And I realized that this nightmare was far from over. The boardroom felt like a gladiator arena. 43 shareholders lined both sides of the massive obsidian table, their faces ranging from curious to hostile. Young Chandelier sat at the far end like a king on his throne, his presentation titled Leadership Crisis, a vote of no confidence, glowing on the screen behind him. I sat in the gallery section with the triplets in their stroller, my heart pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Park Refrigerator squeezed my hand from the seat beside me. We'd been up all night and I was running on pure adrenaline and rage. Ladies and gentlemen, Chandelier began, his voice smooth as poison. Today we address a matter of utmost importance, the stability and integrity of our leadership. He clicked his remote and photos appeared on the screen. Photos of me leaving the hospital with the babies. Of Meteorite and me at his penthouse. Of the broken window at my old apartment. Each image had been carefully captioned to paint the worst possible narrative. Our CEO has been hiding a secret family while simultaneously engaging in what appears to be a coercive relationship with a former employee. That's a lie, I whispered to Refrigerator. My hands trembled with fury. I know, he whispered back. Which is why we're going to destroy him. Meteorite sat at the head of the table, his expression carved from ice. But I could see the tension in his shoulders, the barely controlled rage in the set of his jaw. He hadn't wanted me to come today. Had practically begged me to stay home where it was safe. But these were my children being called props. My integrity being questioned. My life being weaponized. I was done hiding. Chandelier continued his presentation, each slide more damning than the last. Fabricated quotes from anonymous sources. Twisted timelines that made it seem like I trapped Meteorite deliberately. Financial projections showing how this scandal would damage the company's reputation. Furthermore, Chandelier said, his smile widening as he reached his conclusion, I have testimony from 3 former employees claiming CEO Guan has a pattern of inappropriate relationships with subordinates. That's enough. My voice cut through the boardroom like a blade. Every head turned toward me. Chandelier's smile faltered. Meteorite's eyes went wide with panic. I stood up, lifting my laptop from my bag. Before you vote, you should know that Director Young has been embezzling company funds for 3 years. The room erupted. Voices overlapping, chairs scraping. Chandelier's face went from smug to furious in an instant. This is absurd. You can't just interrupt a board meeting with baseless accusations. Then you won't mind if I show everyone the evidence. I walked down to the presentation podium on shaking legs, connected my laptop to the system, and pulled up the files Refrigerator and I had spent all night compiling. Bank statements. Wire transfers. Emails with coded language that became crystal clear once you knew what to look for. 3 years of systematic theft, hidden under layers of shell companies and creative accounting. These transactions, I pointed to the screen, my voice growing stronger, all trace back to accounts controlled by Director Young. 17 million won siphoned from the company's International Development Fund. 23 million from the Employee Pension Program. 31 million from. Where did you get those? Chandelier lunged toward me, his alpha rage taking over completely. Those are private files. You have no authorization. Meteorite moved like lightning, intercepting him before he could reach me. The protective growl that rumbled from his chest made every alpha in the room instinctively step back. It was primal, possessive, the sound of an alpha protecting his mate and children. Touch him, Meteorite snarled, his hand fisted in Chandelier's expensive suit, and I'll destroy you. Security rushed in. It took 3 guards to pull Chandelier away from Meteorite, and even then he fought against them, screaming threats and obscenities. His carefully crafted facade had completely shattered. You worthless Omega. You don't know who you're dealing with. I'll ruin you. I'll take everything, your children, your reputation, your pathetic little life. Get him out of here, the board chairman ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. And someone call legal. And the police. They dragged Chandelier away, his screams echoing down the hallway until the heavy boardroom doors finally muffled them. The silence that followed felt deafening. I stood at the podium, trembling, barely able to believe what had just happened. The shareholders stared at me with expressions ranging from shock to respect to confusion. I apologize for the disruption, I managed to say. But I couldn't let him destroy a good man's reputation with lies when I had evidence of his actual crimes. The board chairman cleared his throat. I think we need to adjourn this meeting for a thorough investigation. All those in favor? The vote was unanimous. Hours later, I stood on Meteorite's penthouse balcony, the evening breeze cool against my flushed skin. Inside, the triplets were finally sleeping after the chaos of the day. Park Refrigerator had gone home, promising to return tomorrow with celebratory takeout. The door behind me opened quietly. Meteorite stepped out, having changed from his suit into casual clothes. He held little Bayal in his arms, her tiny fist clutching his shirt as she dozed. She wouldn't settle, he explained softly. I think she could sense we were both stressed. I smiled, reaching out to stroke her soft hair. She's always been the most perceptive one. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the sunset paint Seoul in shades of gold and pink. Finally, Meteorite spoke, his voice hesitant. The 6-month contract. He paused, looking down at our daughter. Can we tear it up? My heart sank like a stone. After everything today, after that confession last night, after watching him protect me so fiercely, he wanted me gone? You want me to leave? I tried to keep the devastation from my voice and failed completely. No. He turned to face me, and the vulnerability in his eyes stole my breath. God, no. I want you to stay forever. Not because of a contract. Not because of obligations or appearances or business arrangements. But because 5 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life when I let you go, and I've been half alive ever since. Meteorite. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I hurt you in ways I can never fully make right. But I'm asking anyway. He shifted Bayal carefully to one arm and reached out with his free hand, fingers trembling slightly as they brushed my cheek. Stay with me. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I've changed. That I'm worthy of you and our children. That I can be the partner and father I should have been from the beginning. Tears blurred my vision. And if I say no? His smile was sad, resigned, but somehow hopeful. Then I'll ask again tomorrow. And the day after. And every day for the rest of my life if that's what it takes. Because you're it for me, Beck Dandelion. You always have been. I looked at him, really looked at him. At this man who'd been so cold, so closed off, now standing before me with our daughter in his arms and his heart on his sleeve. I thought about the boy who'd pushed love away out of fear. The man who'd spent 5 years regretting it. The father learning to hold his children. The alpha who'd roared his protection over me today in front of 43 witnesses. Ask me again in the morning, Gwon Meteorite. I stepped closer, close enough to feel his warmth. When we're both sure this isn't just the adrenaline talking. He pulled me close with his free arm, careful not to crush Bayal between us. His forehead rested against mine, and I felt him exhale shakily. I'll ask you every morning for the rest of our lives if that's what it takes. Inside the penthouse, Hanol and Haru started fussing. Their sixth sense for knowing when their parents were having a moment. We both laughed, exhausted and relieved. As the sun set over Seoul, painting the sky in impossible colors, I let myself believe in second chances. In cold men who could learn to be warm. In mistakes that could be forgiven. In families built from broken pieces. Come on, I said, taking his hand. Our babies need us. Our babies, he repeated softly like he was testing the words. Finding them perfect. And as we walked back inside together, him carrying Bayal, me ready to scoop up the other two, I realized that home wasn't his penthouse or my old apartment. Home was this. The 4 of them. The mess and the chaos and the love. Finally, after 5 years of running, I was home.